What if this life isn't your first?
The keys felt heavy in my hand as I stood in front of the house. It wasn't a home, not yet. It was more of a relic, a crumbling plantation house left to me by a relative so distant I'd never even met them. The air was thick, smelling of magnolias and decay. Honestly, every instinct screamed at me to just turn around, sell the place, and let the past stay buried. But something kept me there, a strange feeling I couldn't quite name. It felt less like I'd inherited a house, and more like I'd been summoned. The locals talked about it in whispers, calling it a place of secrets. I just brushed it off as small-town gossip. I'm not a believer in ghosts or things that go bump in the night. I believe in what I can see and what I can touch. But then I found it. There's a door on the second floor, at the far end of a long, shadowed hallway. The weird thing is, it's not on any of the house's floor plans. The keyhole was plugged with rust, the wood warped completely shut. It just shouldn't have been there. As my hand rested on the cold brass knob, I felt a jolt, like a shock of static electricity up my arm, and with it, a feeling of profound, impossible familiarity. I've always just assumed this was my first and only life. But what if I was wrong? Welcome to Sleepy Echoes Unwind, where the night remembers old stories. Light your lanterns, slow your breathing, and let us drift together into the hush of the night. Section 1. The Discovery. I found a crowbar in an old shed out back. Getting the door open took way more effort than I thought it would. The wood groaned and splintered until finally, the lock gave way with a sad, metallic sigh. I stepped inside. The air that rolled out was ancient, like opening a time capsule sealed for 80 years. It was clearly a woman's room. A thick blanket of dust covered everything. A vanity table, a 4-poster bed, a small writing desk. On the wall, faded floral wallpaper was peeling. It wasn't my style at all, and yet, I liked it. I had no idea why. I ran my fingers along the desk, leaving a clean streak in the gray dust. There was a leather-bound journal, a silver-backed hairbrush, and a tarnished little music box. I picked up the brush. The silver felt heavy and cool. I polished a small spot with my thumb, revealing an engraving of a swan. And then, a flash. So fast I almost missed it. A hand, but not my hand, brushing long, dark hair in front of a mirror. The scent of lavender was suddenly so real I actually looked around for it. But there was nothing. Just dust and silence. Section 2. The Unraveling. The next few days were a complete blur. I couldn't leave the house. That room just kept pulling me back. The objects in it felt more real, more mine, than anything in the life I'd driven away from just a week ago. Sleep was no escape either. I was hit with these fragmented dreams, visions of another life. A picnic by a huge oak tree. A dance in a crowded hall with music I'd never heard. The absolute terror of a dark, rain-slicked road. I'd wake up with my heart pounding, covered in the ghosts of emotions. Joy, love, fear. I spent all my time in that secret room, going through her things. I finally opened the leather journal. The handwriting was this elegant, looping cursive. The first entry was dated May 12, 1944, and the name on the inside cover read, Eleonora. Section 3. The investigation begins. That's when it became an obsession. This wasn't a passive experience anymore. It was a consuming need to understand what was happening to me. I wasn't going crazy. I was remembering. But how? My first stop was the Charleston Public Library. I started with the name, Eleanora Vance. I searched the 1940s census records, and there she was, Eleanora Vance, age 22, living at the exact same address I now owned. Occupation, artist. It was the first real piece of proof. She was real. But as I scrolled through hours of old newspapers, looking for anything at all, I found nothing. It was like after 1945, she just disappeared. Defeated, I went back to the house, back to the journal. I read late into the night until I reached the final entries from December 1945. Thomas was coming home from the war. Her joy practically exploded off the page. In her last entry, she described a small, unique birthmark on her left shoulder, a little cluster of marks that looked like a constellation. She wrote that Thomas always called it her Orion's belt. I froze. My hand slowly went to my own left shoulder, and there, under my shirt, where it has been my entire life, was that same strange cluster of birthmarks. I just stared at my own skin, and then back at the 80-year-old diary. A chill went through me that had nothing to do with the old house. It's one thing to have a weird dream, but it's another thing entirely to find an old document describing a part of your own body you've had since birth. Section 4. The validation. The birthmark changed everything. This wasn't just a historical project anymore. It was personal. I adjusted the microfiche to December 1945. My hands were shaking as I scrolled past Christmas ads and articles celebrating the end of the war. And then I saw it. A small headline on page 3. Local woman dies in tragic road accident. On the night of December 18th, 1945, a car skidded off a rain-slicked road just outside Charleston. The driver, a young woman, was killed instantly. Her name was Eleanora Vance. She was 23. I wasn't just uncovering a story. I was finishing one. Section 5. The climax of discovery. Walking back into the house this time, I didn't feel like an intruder anymore. I felt like I was home. I walked straight to the secret room, the newspaper clipping clutched in my hand, and sat down at her desk. And in that moment, all the fragmented memories suddenly slammed together. I saw it all. I saw her getting dressed, buzzing with excitement. I saw her driving down that dark road, rain hitting the windshield. I saw the headlights of another car appearing out of nowhere, the screech of tires, the shattering glass, and the sudden, sharp, crushing pain in my left shoulder before everything went black. I gasped, tears just pouring down my face. It wasn't a memory of a memory. It was a memory. The fear was my fear. The pain was my pain. The life was my life. Conclusion. The reflection. This discovery didn't give me all the answers. It didn't explain the mechanics of the universe or the journey of the soul. There was only the quiet, profound, and world-shattering truth of a life that was cut short and, somehow, against all odds, continued. At Eleanor's life, at my life, my own passion for painting, an unexplainable sadness that always hits me on rainy days, a deep-seated fear of driving at night. They aren't random quirks. They're echoes. Thank you for joining this moonlit journey. If you'd like to unwind with more tales each week, light your lantern and subscribe. For now, blow out your lantern. We shall meet again.